We need just a few minutes so we can go ahead and share this to our personal page, and we'll give a few minutes to see if anyone jumps on with us.
We're so cute. So cute.
Yeah, it is. I love that. Like better than the real one. Not gonna lie. Okay. Okay, I've shared on my end. Have you shared on yours?
I've shared on my end.
Okay. Let me undo this. Oh wait, now it says we have someone, but
It's probably
is
us.
it us? It's not gonna trick me again.
If someone is that number that says we're watching, say hey so we can say hi. Unless it's just us watching on our phone.
Probably.
It's probably that.
Okay. It was either us or they're gone. So probably us.
Probably.
So.
Boy, we're ridiculous today. But that's alright. Fix my hairs. Here we go.
Yeah.
Whoa. A 5-head short.
Oh. Okay.
Better.
Let's do it. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. From national parks to theme parks, a travel experience. I'm Cherie.
And I'm Cheyenne. So let's go to the park.
Okay, I think we do have someone now.
Yay!
Surely that's all
Hey.
us. Hey.
Probably still is. It's fine.
It's okay.
Today, we are talking about one of my favorite parks, which is the Grand Tetons National Park, which is in Wyoming. And we might cry during this. It's an emotional park. We'll get there.
It is an emotional park that I've been really excited for, and I've almost spilled the beans on several prior vlogs that we've done. About our one story.
Yes, it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so
good. I'm so glad I can tell it today and move on. It won't no longer be a secret.
Yes.
So, your mom's on. Hi. Yay. Okay. So this, like she said, this is one of my favorite parks as well, and it's one that I definitely want to go back to because as we were talking today, we've realized, and I already knew before, that we had to go back because we're just not giving it what it deserves. So we're excited to go back to this park. But we are going to start out with our quiz, and it's my turn this week to quiz Cheyenne. So,
okay, I'm ready.
Okay, we're going to start with true and false.
Okay.
This one surprised me. When it comes to presidents, Grand Tetons National Park has been one of the most visited. True or false?
I feel like that's really random, so it has to be true.
That is true. So Grand Tetons National Park has been one of the most visited by the presidents. And fun fact, the president that has visited the most parks in general is Barack Obama. And he has been to 30.
He's been to more than I have.
Me too.
Dang.
Yeah. So
that's really cool.
That was interesting.
That's really cool. I wonder why.
It also kind of surprised me that it was Barack Obama and not like some of the other presidents that I associate with the parks.
Right, like Theodore Roosevelt.
Right. But I don't know how many parks were a park.
Right.
During his presidency and
were
things
they
like
30
that.
parks? I mean,
Right.
he made the first one, so it wouldn't be. I guess that's really cool.
Yeah. Okay, good job. You got the first one right. Next, the Grand Teton Mountain Range is the oldest in the Rocky Mountains. True or false?
I don't even know what the difference is between the ranges, so I'm just going to say true.
That one is false. It is actually the youngest mountain range in the Rocky Mountains.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. Okay, next. The park had 3,885,230 recreation visits in 2021.
True.
True, yeah. That's a lot, isn't it?
That is a lot. I saw when I was looking at the numbers that last year, so 2022, was a record-breaking year for number of visitors to the Grand Tetons.
Ooh, so I wonder do you have what it was last year?
I didn't really know.
So it beat that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, it's a good one. I mean, but I feel like sometimes maybe it's overshadowed by Yellowstone.
Right.
Could be.
I feel like if you go to Yellowstone, you have to go to the Grand Tetons. It's just right there. There's one stretch of road that separates the two.
Yeah.
So I would think those two would be close in numbers.
Yeah. Okay. Multiple choice.
Okay.
Here we go. You're doing good so far. 2 out of 3. The highest elevation in Grand Teton is A, 15,096 feet, B, 13,775 feet, or C, 8,756 feet.
What was B again?
13,775 feet. That's a lot of numbers.
It's a lot of numbers. I'm gonna go with A.
Good. I hope that were tricky. It was B. Whoa! One of our books failed. So sorry. We didn't know what was going on. It was B.
Okay,
13,775. So I knew C wouldn't get you, but I thought, well, with those being so close, you just don't really know. So that is the highest elevation in the Grand Teton National Park. Yeah. Okay. 2 and 2 is what you're at.
2 and 2. Not doing so hot today.
Oh, I think you're doing great. You'll get this next one. The first American to pass through the region has a stone named after him. What is his name? William Clark, Jeremy Smith, John Coulter.
Is it John Coulter?
It is. Did you know that as a visitor center? The Coulter.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the only name that I recognize. That's the only reason I guessed that one. Because
Jeremy Smith.
Jeremy Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Now John Smith.
True.
Could have tricked me up.
Oh, I should have put John. I don't know where Jeremy came from. But anyways, that stone is currently in a visitor center in the park.
Probably the Coulter Visitor Center?
Probably.
I would hope so. Maybe. That's cool.
Okay. Last one. Ooh.
Okay.
And you're in the lead now, 3-2. Who was the first president to visit the park? Chester Arthur, Theodore Roosevelt, Herbert Hoover.
Is Chester Arthur a president?
So I read.
Okay. I'm gonna go with Hoover.
It was Chester. Well, you got me questioning if he was the president. That's what I read. Just go ahead. We're gonna go ahead and just fact check that. Yeah.
Chester Arthur president. Look at that.
Should have been more confident.
You should have. He was the vice president under James Garfield. So then he
Previously served.
yeah.
Okay.
And then
we share a birthday.
And you share a birthday.
Wow. Okay,
Chester Arthur. He was the 21st U.S. president, which was 1829 to 1886.
So, he was the first to visit the park. I also hadn't heard of him before. I looked at that. And I just trusted what I read.
It's fine.
Unlike you.
Well,
I know.
It's okay.
I know. I hadn't heard of him either.
It's okay. All right. So, that was what? 4? I came out good. I don't
Did you?
remember. I came out good. No, I didn't.
Did
Because I
you
got that one wrong.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, you did.
So I got 50% on the quiz today. That's okay.
Failed.
Take it. Failed
it.
Failed it. So, national parks by the numbers.
Woo-hoo.
I don't know how there are 7 lodges in Grand Tetons, but there are 7 different lodges that you can stay at, and that's lodges or cabins that you can stay at.
Who knew?
There are 8 different campgrounds, which also blew my mind because some of them are just tent sites. Some of them are your standard campground situation. And then some of them have full hookup, full pull-through sites. And that amazes me. Up to 40 feet.
That is so nice.
For your RV. So a lot of the parks, if they have camping, it's a tent site.
Mm-hmm.
Or your camper can only be 25 feet. And you may or may not have electricity.
Right.
So the fact that this has all of it is really cool.
And the fact that we didn't see one, did we see one single campground? I don't remember seeing one. I don't remember.
I don't remember seeing a campground.
I don't remember seeing a lodge. But I have looked at some of the lodges online and the views are beautiful.
Yes.
So,
yes. I think Jenny Lake Lodge is the one that like you can see the lake with the Teton Range behind it, and it's just perfection.
We'll add that to the to-do list.
Yep. So with that, there's also 10 different places you can buy food in the park. And whether that is like the lodge dining room or a grill or a cafe or at a marina, there's a pizzeria at the marina. And I just think that's cool.
Me too. Beats me. Which they probably were not open when we went anyways.
Right. So
but we still didn't see them. So.
There are 3 different visitor centers for Grand Tetons, plus a visitor center that's right on the upper edge. That is for the, it's the upper Grand Teton or lower Yellowstone visitor center. It's the stretch of highway that's between the Grand Tetons and Yellowstone is a national memorial site or national historic site. It's a national something that you drive on. Rockefeller.
That's what I was about to say. Is it John D. Rockefeller?
Yep, it's a Rockefeller.
Okay.
So that visitor center talks about them and their their interests there.
Yeah.
They also have a preserve center, and it talks about different natural things and how to preserve the different areas.
Yeah.
And how they do that.
I have looked at that. It looks really cool.
And then they have 2 different ranger information centers.
Nice.
So there is a total of 7 different places you can go and get information in the Grand Tetons.
That is unbelievable because we went to 1 or 2. I think just one.
I think just one. When we first got there, it was the...
I can see it in my mind.
I can see it because there's glass windows.
Yeah.
It's on the southern edge of the park as soon as you come in from Jackson Hole. It was right there.
Okay.
And it had like a museum walkthrough thing, but that was closed when we were there. We just went in with our stamps, with our souvenirs, and we talked to the rangers and asked them pretty much, where do we find a moose?
Yes.
And they answered.
They did. They delivered.
They did.
And that's where I got my first stamp. So Cheyenne introduced me to the National Park stamp book, and it's just such a great souvenir because it tells you like the date that you went to the park, and you just get to check it off, and that's a lot of fun for me. So she introduced me to that. So if you are a big national park person or state park, because you can get one for Tennessee State Park, it's right there, and some other state park places as well, but not all of them. That's a great purchase to make too. And I saw where you can put like a personal picture that you took like in front of the park signs. There's a little area for a picture where you can get buy like general ones from the store, but where they do like a picture of them in front of the park sign and put it there. And I love that idea.
That is pretty cool.
I wish I would have done that.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's where I got my
So
first
you
stand.
bought that at the Craig Thomas Discovery and Visitor Center.
Cool.
That's the visitor center that's on the bottom edge.
Okay.
There's a visitor center in the middle that's the Jenny Lake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then the one at the very top is the Culture Bay Visitor
Okay.
Center, which is on Jackson Lake.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So when we did our Yellowstone trip, we combined it with the Grand Tetons. So it was myself, Tyler and Evie, Blake and Tree, and then my parents, Michelle and Scott. And so we did this in June of 2020. So a lot of the places we didn't get to see, but we didn't really want to go to the lodges or to the different visitor centers because they were closed anyway. So we have a lot more to see in the Grand Tetons.
Yes, we do. We flew mid-pandemic from Nashville to Bozeman, Montana, and we started in Yellowstone. We started this trip in Yellowstone and then made our way down to Grand Tetons one of those days. Just kind of a quick day trip visit to Grand Tetons. And where we stayed, so we didn't really stay close to the Grand Tetons because it really was a Yellowstone focused trip. So we stayed in Island Park, and that was an Airbnb cabin in Idaho. That was on the lake, and it was beautiful. It was like, what, 20 minutes outside of the west entrance?
Yellowstone,
yeah.
So it was closer, a lot closer to Yellowstone.
Right.
But that meant when we went to the Grand Tetons, we actually drove down on the Idaho side of the mountain range, and we were able to stop at some really amazing waterfalls.
Yeah.
On that backside, and then you had to cross over into Jackson Hole.
Yeah.
And then we drove back north through the park.
Yeah. It was a fun adventure.
It was.
I thought. And then we stayed in an Airbnb cabin outside of Bozeman, closer to the airport, on our last night.
Yes.
So, some top spots at or around Grand Teton National Park that we really enjoyed. The first one for me was Jenny Lake. I was going to say it was one of my favorites. And what we did at Jenny Lake, so we got to take a boat ride across Jenny Lake, which I just loved because you don't just see it, you actually get to be on it and, kind of experience it. It was very cloudy. It was so different. It was very cloudy and dark. And so we were riding like one of the later boat rides across, one of the last boat rides across. And our plan when we got over there was to take a hike, which we did. We hiked to Hidden Falls, which was a beautiful waterfall. It was only a 1 mile hike, but if you add another half mile to it, you can also go to Inspiration Point, which overlooks everything, which is also really pretty, that we saw in pictures. We did not make it there. We had to hoof it to get to the waterfall and then make it back to the boat, because if you didn't make it back to the boat, one, they were not going to wait on you, and two, if you didn't make it back to the boat, you had to hike another way back, and it was a long hike. Yes. I don't remember how long it was.
So you can get to the trailhead for Hidden Falls and Inspiration Point by going around Jenny Lake, but we didn't want to hike around Jenny Lake. We wanted to boat across. So yeah, we asked the people if we could do it, and they're like, yeah, you can do it. So Tyler and I are in the front, and Sheree and Blake were behind us, and we just take off.
Sorry.
That is our
puppy dogs.
Our puppy dogs. One of them is our editor, and the other one is the snack getter.
True.
What is that called?
They've always been so
An
quiet.
assistant?
But not today.
Not today. That's okay. Their name is Boomer and Paisley.
Yeah. And they travel with us quite often.
They do.
As long as we're not flying. But that boat ride does cut off a significant portion of the hike, and we were going in the evening. You know, if you're up and have the time for a longer hike, I'm sure it would be beautiful to go around the lake and go that way as well. But I enjoyed the boat ride as well. I still wouldn't cut that out. So, you know, maybe you could take the boat ride and then after you see the falls, go around the lake and finish it that way. Yeah. Also in that area, the Jenny Lake area, there is a visitor center, and then there's also a scenic drive as well. So that's one of my top spots.
Yes. One of my top spots is Mormon Row. On that area, there's a couple different places you can drive by and see. Mm-hmm. We didn't have time to stop and get out and explore really any of the places along that, except for the main event, which Cherie will talk about. But it's a historic district, and it talks about the early homestead life of the Grand Tetons. And then there's the Murray Ranch, which is where the Murray family was. And that became a base camp for the conservation leaders of the time. So they would come there and stay and then talk about how important conservation work is. Cool. And that led to the 1964 Wilderness Act, which protects a bunch of stuff. Awesome. Pretty cool.
Okay, so the main event that she was talking about is going to be my next top spot around Grand Tetons. So this is going to be on Mormon Road, same area she was talking about, but it's called the T.A. Moulton Barn. And it is actually one of the most photographed places in the world. So that's pretty cool. And it really is beautiful. I can totally see why. So I read a little backstory on that, and they began construction in 1913, and it was meant to be a flat shelter for his workhorses. Do you think that he ever thought that it would be the most photographed place in the world? No. It was for the workhorses. So that's pretty cool. 15 years later, he added a hayloft, and then 25 years after he began construction, he put the north and south sheds, which would make it the way it looks today. So that is also one of my top spots.
That's pretty cool. So one of the other top places to go, it's not necessarily in the park, it's right south of the park, and it is called Jackson Hole. It's kind of like Jackson Hole to Grand Tetons is Gatlinburg to the Smoky Mountains.
For sure, yeah. That's what I say.
It's where all the shopping is. It's got your cheesy souvenirs, but it's more elevated. Yeah. So there was Thomas Mangelson has a gallery there. He's a famous photographer. And there's like a Pandora store, and there's hiking stores, and there's all kinds of stuff. And it's 5 miles from the entrance to Grand Tetons. A lot of people will stay in Jackson Hole and go visit the park from there. Jackson Hole Airport is located right inside of the Grand Tetons National Park. And so that makes it the only national park that has its own airport.
So cool. Jackson Hole is really awesome.
And it has an arch made of antlers, elk antlers.
Yeah.
Or was it moose?
Elk, I do believe.
Elk, okay. So everyone goes and gets their pictures made underneath
the
antler arch.
Surprise, surprise on that name. Okay, number 5 on our top 5 spots to see at Grand Teton National Park is Moose Wilson Road. And I chose this one because it was just an awesome experience for us. So it is a 15-mile stretch of road, and that's great for wildlife viewing. So it is considered a scenic drive, and this is where we saw 3 moose, a mama and her baby, and an adolescent moose. I don't know what age it was, but it wasn't a baby and it wasn't an adult, so
somewhere in the middle. Yep.
So that's an awesome road to check out. Obviously not guaranteed you're going to see anything there, check with your rangers and ask them, where they've been seen having sightings of moose or other wildlife before you head out for the most up-to-date information on that.
Yep. So we walked in and said we want to see a moose, and the ranger said Moose Wilson Road. So okay, we can do that,
and we did.
And we did it, and we saw a moose, and the mama moose and the baby moose were in the creek. They were just drinking water, minding their own business.
Yeah.
And it was just absolutely serene watching it.
It was magical.
Absolutely magical.
Yeah.
With this road, though, there's a lot of curves on it. And so there's a restriction on how long your vehicle can be on that road.
Okay. Something about the moose, too. If you check out our photos, the photos from my point of view at least, I will definitely post the pictures I took of the mama drinking out of the creek. It was really cool. We were so excited.
Yeah, we were driving and I had turned around to say something to someone in the back seat and saw it out of the back window. So it was around a curve so where you couldn't see. And I just happened to turn around and saw it, which is...
I love seeing wildlife. It is my favorite part of the parks and lakes.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. So, the next time we go to the park, I feel like I always think I want to stay in the park.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
The Tetons, there's just something about it. It's just beautiful to look at. Yeah, it's a mountain.
Yeah, it is.
It's a rocky mountain with a lake in front of it. But there's just something about it that makes you want to just sit there and stare at it. So I think staying at one of the lodges
for sure
would be what I want to do when I go back, and hike a lot more. So Tyler's favorite hike was the Hidden Falls hike. That's his favorite waterfall.
Wow, that's
Fun
cool.
fact. And I want to go back to the waterfall and then travel on to the next point out there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, when we came back from our hike to the waterfall, we came back and the people said, "Hey, did you see the moose in the trail?"
Oh, I forgot about that.
So we almost saw, it was a bull moose too, I believe.
Well, if it was, I'm over it, because that's twice I've missed just by a few minutes a bull moose. And I've not seen one yet, and we were 10 minutes from seeing one at Glacier.
Man, it happens.
Yeah, that's big on the
But
list.
when I go back, I think I want to stay at the Jenny Lake Lodge.
Yeah.
Do the boat ride again and do all that. I think so.
Okay. When I go back, I want to go, and this is also kind of outside the park in the Jackson Hole area, but I want to go to the National Elk Refuge. I was looking into that when I had planned a trip for someone, and it looks really cool. It's just a great wildlife viewing area, not just for elk though. You can see elk, bighorn sheep, I didn't know that, bald eagles, coyotes, and swans in the winter.
Ooh.
And that's actually, fun fact on that, those, I think they're called trumpeter swans, are like the smallest bird maybe in the world.
Oh.
That are there. And then in the spring and summer, you can see badgers and pronghorn, and I love seeing pronghorn. And then in autumn, you can see a bighorn sheep, pronghorn, and then the elk are mid to November, early December for that. So that's somewhere I definitely want to go when we go back to the Grand Tetons.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds really cool. So my favorite park story. I'm not going to spoil it yet. I'm going to choose something that didn't happen to me. Okay, so what happened was...
moved that in front of you.
Did you?
No. You were probably
No. I'm not going to spoil it. So, Jenny Lake, I've talked about it 18 different times, but there are specific park rangers to Jenny Lake.
Cool.
They're called the Jenny Lake Rangers.
Cool.
And they are the ones that's your search and rescue team.
Oh.
So people rock climb up to the top of the Tetons. All the way to the tip top.
That.
Yeah.
That's cool.
All the way to the tip top. You can
cool.
rock climb. I mean, it's very technical.
Oh, yeah,
I think
sure.
there's over 100 different routes that you can take to get to the top of the Tetons. The issue with that is you're at, what did we decide, 15,000?
13,000.
13,000-ish feet.
Whew.
So if there's a storm rolling in and you're on the side of a rock face, that's not good news. So there is an entire book about the Jenny Lake Rangers and an event that happened. Long story short, there was a group of people on the Tetons range and it got hit by lightning. It actually struck right next to a party of 5. And the rescue effort that the Jenny Lake Rangers had to do to get them safely. And the Jenny Lake Rangers are like the Navy SEALs of search and rescue teams.
Cool.
So if you want to listen to more of that story, National Park After Dark that's another podcast. They have an entire episode dedicated to that story.
Oh, cool.
And it is terrifying. Terrifying.
I'll have to listen to that.
The statistics and stuff, it's really scary. Like, my heart was racing listening to it. They, the Jenny Lake Rangers, they have to qualify through a whole bunch of stuff just to be eligible to be there. Like, and that's like helicopter rescue, water rescue, climbing a mountain, like free solo. Like, they don't use equipment to climb the mountain. They have their search and rescue backpacks on and just like monkey climb up the mountain.
Oh my gosh.
It's crazy.
No.
It's crazy. There's also a book about it too.
Cool.
So that's, I think, the coolest thing. So you can go to the Jenny Ranger Visitor Center and there's the ranger centers there. So one of my bucket list items is to meet one of the search and rescue people from Jenny Lake.
Outside
Not
of
because
an emergency.
Right, not because I need rescue, but because they're just standing there. Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool. That's really interesting. Okay, the long-awaited,
Yes.
magical, wonderful moment of my life.
Yes.
Really, one of the coolest moments of my life happened at Grand Teton National Park with all of my friends that went with us. So we were driving and we saw both sides of the road was packed with cars. And when you see that, you know there's something cool to see. And so of course we had to stop because FOMO, and thank goodness we did.
Mm-hmm.
So we get out, we find a place to park our big expedition Tahoe thing.
Yeah. Well, even before we parked, we rolled our window down and asked somebody, like, what's coming? And they said it. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but we'll stop.
Yeah.
And then we had to go find a spot forever away.
Yes. Okay, so we finally walk back and we get to see this beautiful grizzly bear. She is absolutely gorgeous. And her 4 cubs. 4 cubs. And we just get to see her. She's walking across this field towards us and towards the road. We got to see her stand up and look around at her surroundings. We got to see her 4 cubs just frolicking through the grass without a care in the world.
They're cubs. They had no idea.
Right. And there's lines of people watching her.
Apparently, I know, because she's famous.
She is famous. So, but we didn't know it.
But we didn't know it. We were just like, oh cool.
Yes.
Grizzly
so this is not just
$3.99.
Yes, Grizzly $3.99. So definitely look her up if you have not heard of her.
She has her own Wikipedia page. And her own Twitter. And her own Instagram.
Yeah, yeah. So she is famous because she is the oldest bear?
The oldest grizzly bear to consistently have cubs.
And that many cubs.
It
is not common for a grizzly to have 4 cubs at one
she
time.
has done it multiple times.
Because she's living. Like, she lives through it. She's street smart. She's smart
Yes.
around people, you know, not trying to stay away from homes and trash and things like that.
She has taught her cubs to look both ways before crossing the street.
Yeah.
So all of her cubs are smart.
Chills. No, I'm not lying.
All of her cubs are smart.
And she's walking towards us.
Towards us.
Right.
Not just like walking towards us, but like there's a grizzly bear walking towards us.
And so as the moments pass, you know, I'm all the way zoomed in on my camera. And as the moments pass by, I'm like twisting the zoom, like making it smaller and smaller because she's getting closer and closer. And so eventually the rangers start saying, you know, like, get to your cars, get to a safe space because she's going to cross the road.
But we didn't move because Cherie got hit by this lady.
Oh, do you want to go ahead and go there too?
It's part of it.
So while I had my camera zoomed in, this man comes with all of his fancy equipment, which I would love to have, but like all of his fancy equipment, and he kind of scooches me out of the way a little bit, and I'm like, okay.
He doesn't scoot you out of the way. The lady walks next to you and hits you with his tripod.
True.
And tells us to move.
It was not a nice scooch.
No.
So I'm like, okay, who are you, you know? And this lady literally grabs my arm and like claws it and like pulls me back. And it's like, don't you know who that is? And I'm like, no. But he did just move me out of the way. And she said, that's Thomas Mangelson, and he's a famous wildlife photographer.
We had no idea.
Famous grizzly, famous wildlife photographer. 2 in 1. And I got to stand beside him, take pictures beside him, and look through his camera lens and look at his shots.
Like, we had no idea who this was, okay?
No.
And at one point we said, can we see that? And he tilts his camera towards us and shows us the pictures that he's taking. Okay, fun fact. We thought we would go buy the print of the picture that he took. But it turns out it was like $3,500 because he's famous photographer, as in like he's friends with Jane Goodall, famous. We got to look in his camera.
And Smarty Pants, and I literally mean Smarty Pants. She had the great idea to take a picture of the back of his head, which I love. I did. Of like him looking through his camera. I'll have to share that with one of you too.
Bears in the background. So it's the picture of him taking pictures of the bears.
So cool. So that happened as well. Just all in all, magical moment.
Yeah.
So then she continues coming, and you know, you back up and you get out of the way because obviously you want to respect their space. So in the process of backing up, I turn around and there she is, like walking across the road, not incredibly far from me. And all I could do is just watch with her 4 little cubs in tow behind her. It's like time stood still, really, and it was like slow motion of her walking across the road. I could see it on.
And there was a couple people between us.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And it's one of those things. So she would look at the crowd, and you could hear the cameras clicking.
Yeah.
You could hear the shutter speeds. Every time she would look, or a cub stood up, or she stood up, like you would just hear thousands of cameras clicking because there was hundreds of people there taking pictures of this famous grizzly bear.
And I'm sure people were talking, but in my mind it was silent.
In my mind, we were all silent. I was a little focused on where's Tyler because he was holding Evie. But I can hear the ranger yelling.
Yeah, me too.
Because he's saying you would never be this close to a grizzly bear in if it was by yourself, and you need to back up.
Yeah.
We will start finding you. Back up.
Yeah.
And then she started crossing the road. Like I feel like it was just right behind him.
Right.
Like if she would have decided to eat someone, it would have been him. because he was trying to get us safe. Well, he wasn't trying to get us safe. He was keeping her safe.
True, which is what we want.
Which is what we want.
Yeah.
Because if she would have even clawed at him, they would have put her down.
Yeah.
And one of the 4 cubs that we got to see was put down because he got a little too close to Jackson Hole.
I didn't
You
know
did?
that.
I'm so sorry.
How rude. You tell me all this life.
Yeah. He kept getting into Jackson Hole and going through the garbage, and it got to the point that he was getting too close to humans, so they had to put one of those down. I know, but we got to see it.
Well, this is our last podcast together.
We're not friends anymore. But I don't know. So she crosses the road, and then she crosses the road, so she's facing the Grand Teton mountain range. So then you've got pictures of her and her cubs with the Tetons in the background. And then she just walks on and minds her own business. And then we walk back to the car, and we're both crying because it's one of those moments we will never get that moment ever again in our life.
Probably not.
Ever. Even if it's a different grizzly bear or a different famous photographer. It's just, that experience is probably number 1 on my amazing life moments.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like, it's just the epitome of national park experiences.
It is. I totally agree. There was something else I was going to say about her. Oh, she was born the same year that you and Blake were, so she's 30 years old.
Is she?
I always remember him saying that she was born the same year as him.
Yeah.
So she is 30 years old.
30 years
Which is cool, because if you think about it, like, unfortunately her cub passed.
Yeah.
Was put down. Someone told me that. Am I wrong? He said that.
Blake was wrong.
Are you sure?
No.
Just fact check that a little bit.
We're going to fact check. It says Grizzly 399.
Like, when was that put out? And that's Wikipedia.
Right. This is born in 1996.
Oh, well, that's true.
So that would...
well.
There's a couple things that say 96. So she's
old.
4 years younger than me. So she's 26.
Okay. Anyways.
She just said I was old.
We're old. I said we're old.
Oh, okay, good.
Anyways, I don't even know what I was going about. I've lost count now.
I don't know.
Well, I think maybe that was.
But either way,
I was saying
she's getting old.
Well, I was saying
she's very old.
You know, when her cub was put down as a cub, you know, for getting into mischief and stuff, and she has lived 26. Did you say 26?
26
years. You know, that says something about a bear and its smarts for it to live that long and avoid trouble. So,
Yep. It's just, whenever we think about our Yellowstone and Grand Teton trip, it's just one of those things, we want to go back and do it again, but I don't know how we can beat the first trip.
No, I don't either. And it was literally a long weekend trip.
Yeah.
It wasn't even that long of a trip.
It was our Grand Tetons. That was our last night in for this trip. We hadn't seen a grizzly bear yet. We'd seen multiple black bears.
Yeah.
And they can be black or blonde or cinnamon or brown. But we hadn't seen a grizzly bear yet.
She was our first grizzly bear ever.
She was our first grizzly bear ever.
Well, how do you beat that? You can't.
I know, like you can't beat that.
What an experience.
I know.
Okay. Got anything else?
I don't have anything else to add.
Okay. Well, our blog post will be posted next Monday on the Grand Teton National Park. And that is where you will be able to find our full itinerary and some other options as well.
As always, follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. And we will put those links for you to follow.
So maybe we can get famous and Thomas Mangelson will take a picture of the back of our head.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
You can also join our private Facebook group where you can share your own travel plans and get feedback or ideas from other people while you're planning your trip.
Yep. And we hope that you will join us in 2 weeks for our next live. And I have no idea what. Yes, I do. What is next week's?
I don't know.
It's a state park. So we're.
Oh, I do. Yeah.
It's a state park.
I do
And
know
it's
what
a
it is.
really good state park.
It is one of my favorites, or possibly my favorite.
Yeah.
Okay. So until next time,
We'll
see you at the park.
Maybe. Maybe we'll just take